My name is Naomi Vogt. I specialize in modern and contemporary art, and one of the modules that I'm teaching is called Art and Disruption 1900 Today. It's a second-year module, and I think it's a particularly fun one. What we do in this module is we go over most of the 20th century, exploring some of the ways in which artists and art have tried to disrupt their environment, both formally and in terms of ideology. We ask questions like, how did artists resist forms of imperialism? What does it even mean for art to be contemporary? And one of the guiding threads is asking, well, why did provocation become so central to modern and contemporary art? In class, we try to adopt a comparative approach to the diversity of different artistic cultures. So we make sure to take examples of modernism and contemporary art both within the dominant artistic centers in Western Europe and North America and beyond. So for example, studying the work of Gauguin and his travels to the Pacific is something that we do, but we also then look at art and visual culture in the Pacific, for example, by studying Maori art and why it might require us to revisit some of the art historical habits that we have and that we've developed by remaining focused on Europe. Similarly, studying the work of Picasso and his radical representations also involves looking very closely at some of the African art that inspired him and really looking at it in its own terms. For example, the Dan masks of coming from the Ivory Coast and Liberia. We also study the feminist movement in the 60s and 70s and how that influenced art very strongly, how it encouraged women to use unconventional media, to involve their own bodies in their work. For example, in this performance image by Yayoi Kusama, we also study how art has sometimes interfered very directly in social life through forms of activism, for example. So group material is one of the examples we study. They were active in the 80s, and they created an important work that we see here called The AIDS Timeline, where they're trying to write history, but in a visual way, to denounce how little at that point had been done to help HIV-positive people. The way that we study in this module is varied. There's many lectures that I give. There's a lot of class discussion based on readings, based on student presentations, but we also, when we can, visit museums and study, as I said, in front of the artworks as much as possible. We have screenings of video art followed by conversations. Sometimes students organize little roundtables. So once they've prepared a presentation, they become specialists in a topic that they chose. So we organize roundtables kind of like in a conference.